So after much deliberation, I decided to make a full video on my entire AI workflow as an entrepreneur with the hopes that there'll be something in there for you to learn, something in there that's useful, something in there that may apply to you specifically. And just a heads up, this video is very excitingly being sponsored by Anthropic. So thanks to them. Okay, so before we get into the workflow, I want to zoom out a little bit and opine about work. What does that actually mean? Well, in general terms, work happens when we take an input, we do some stuff to it, we process it, and then get some sort of reasonable output. So for example, in the agricultural era, your input would have been seeds, for example. The processing is done by the sunlight and water and nature and all the other factors that you would think of when it comes to agriculture. And naturally, your output would be your harvest. And so back in the day, the work of the farmer was to take the raw input of seeds and to do the processing along with it and then harvest the output. And now you go forward a few thousand years and now you're processing maybe trees and the output may be something like a table or a desk or a chair, whatever that thing may be. And generally the value of the outputs, if you're doing it properly, is greater than the value of the inputs plus the OPEX and the labor of processing. And therefore you would have created value because someone else is going to pay more for that table than you created compared to the raw material that was initially paid for. So we have the agricultural era, which is all about creating food. Then we get to the industrial revolution and industrial era, which is all about creating stuff in the real world, cars, trains, railroads, all the fun stuff. But over the last 75 years or so, we have basically, like if you're watching this, you're probably not a farmer, you're probably not a woodworker, you probably don't work in a factory. You probably do some kind of knowledge work, which is still work in the sense of input becomes processed, becomes output. But now instead of it being physical real life stuff that we're talking about as inputs and turning into outputs, for the most part, we've got a new kind of system, which thereby puts the inputs as thoughts from our brain and the outputs as zeros and ones from the computer. The processing is that we are using our skills to type away on a computer probably, and the output is some sort of digital thing, something that's not actually tangible. But still the output has more value than the input, and therefore we are able to charge more money for the thing. Now I say this because I find it very useful to understand this as context as it relates to AI workflows in the modern world. Because obviously AI changes, and I should say disrupts everything. As we knowledge workers, entrepreneurs, as sensible people working in the world, we need to find ways to adapt. And the cool thing about AI tools is that they can help us in every aspect of this input process and output situation. And I'd like to show you what my kind of workflow looks like overlaid on it. Okay, so up on the screen are the various type of AI tools that make up my current AI workflow. We have three-ish things in an input column. We have VoicePal, which inputs. We have Grain, that inputs. And we have Super Whisper, that inputs. And then we have processing, which is almost entirely done by Claude. Claude is my favorite AI large language model. I use it now pretty much for everything. It's basically replaced all my ChatGPT usage because I just think Claude is way better. And so Claude is sort of like the entire processing hub for absolutely everything. And then the outputs are either Google Docs, or if it's a video, it goes into output like Firecut, which is sort of an AI tool that helps my editors save time. And if it's a presentation that needs to be made, it's made using Gamma, because Gamma is a really nice sort of AI powered presentation builder, which is very good. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quick run through all of these different apps that I've mentioned. There's gonna be links down below if you want to check it out. And we're going to go through three specific kind of areas of my own work and how these apps fit into the workflow of each one of them. So first we have VoicePal. This is an app that my team and I have built over the last 12 months or so. VoicePal is a conversational AI writing tool, whereas if you want to write anything, you basically speak into VoicePal on your phone. VoicePal then asks you follow-up questions based on what you've said, your initial input, and then can go back and forth as much as you like while you're on a walk, while you're at a coffee shop, while you're in a meeting. And then when you're done, you simply export the raw transcript of everything that you just said, including the arms or ahs, into a cleaned up transcript, which sort of just gets rid of all the verbal nonsense that comes out when you're normally speaking. And then you can export it into Claude or any other tool that you want. This makes for a clear prompt with no mistakes, no ambiguity at all. Next, we talk about Grain. Grain is one of the many apps that let you record Zoom calls. Essentially, we've been using Grain for years, even before mainstream AI officially came out. And then we can often take the transcript of Zoom calls and chuck it into Claude to do various things. Super Whisper is a really nice Mac app, and obviously I'm a Mac fanatic, which basically is a better version of dictation when you're on a Mac. So like most computers would have dictation built in naturally. However, on Super Whisper, you simply sort of hit the hotkey and then you speak into your computer like you would an assistant, sort of type out everything you've said. And then, so this is how it tends to be, how I interact with Claude if I'm on my computer. If I'm on my phone, if I want to interact with Claude, I'll straight up use the Claude app. If I'm on my computer, I'll use Super Whisper, sort of like a bridge to dictate into Claude. And then I'll go back and forth with it because it's way quicker to speak than to type. So these are the types of various different sources of input. Claude, of course, is the large language model, in general AI tool by Anthropic. As a heads up, I just want to mention again, this video is sponsored by Anthropic. but it's because we reached out to them saying, hey, we want to make a video, and we use Claude daily, and we've been using it for, I think, 18 months, probably 2 years. So would you guys like to partner with us on a video? And they said, sure, why not? And so this video is technically sponsored by Anthropic. So take that however you want to take it, for whatever it's worth. But Claude has genuinely replaced basically 100% of our instances from ChatGPT, especially now that they've introduced memory into the free plan. The memory feature was the only reason why I was still using GPT for a little bit of stuff, because ChatGPT had memories of all of my chats, which means I didn't have to necessarily start over every time I wanted to discuss something new or pick up on a conversation that I previously had. But now Claude thankfully has memories of all of my chats, which means that for the last week since this feature came out, I actually have not had to use GPT for anything because Claude now has memory built in. So yeah, Claude is 100% my go-to large language model. And I generally prefer it to ChatGPT because its personality is a bit fluid. It's a bit more interesting. I find it a lot more engaging. I feel when it's writing better stuff than ChatGPT, it's also less sycophantic than, yes, ChatGPT, because that's why I love Claude. Anything that's a bit of a tangent from Google Docs, but I use it just the same, is Notion. Now, for those of you that don't know, Notion is sort of our project management plus everything kind of workspace, where everything we do in our business kind of happens through Notion. And Gamma is a very nice sort of slide builder where you basically just input a bunch of text. Gamma AI will generate quite nice looking slides for you to use. I use it for some of the lessons we do. I use it for pitch decks, branding, proposals, everything along those lines. It's super nice just to be able to generate nice looking slides rather than having someone manually drag and drop stuff on Google Slides or Keynote or PowerPoint. But now, having introduced you to all of these different apps that I use, I want to show you different areas of my work life. And then we're sort of going to go through exactly what kind of workflow and what kind of AI tools we use in each area. Habit tracker with accountability squads built in that help you stay consistent on energizing habits. You choose what habits. The next thing that we probably might be launching, and probably launched by the time the video comes out, is called Creator Grid. And this is a free platform that allows creators to grow and monetize by connecting them with brands and getting brand deals, regardless of how many followers you have. So far, we've already connected about 350 influencers with world tier brands like Visa, Anthropic, Canon, you name it. So I do see a lot of potential, and I think this is going to be really exciting for up and coming creators, people who just want to get a bit more involved in what they do, professionals in their space. Okay, now we're going to dive a little bit into the software side of things. By the way, there'll be timestamps underneath the video. So of course, as you know, you can skip to whichever part feels like you'll resonate with. So we have a team plan for Sparkle Studios, which is the name of the business. And we have artifacts which generate code snippets, text documents, website design. That's super, super helpful for everything that we do. We have AI powered artifacts enabled as well, which helps us create clickable prototypes and things like that. We have location metadata. We have memory, which is a new feature. When they announced this feature, it was so incredible. We've enabled the memory feature so that Claude can then reference all of my past chats. And Claude can also remember personal context from the chats to make conversations more interesting. We've also connected our Notion workspace to Claude, which allows Claude access to basically all of the stuff we've got going on in Notion since 2019. We've got tons and tons of stuff in Notion, and we've connected it to Canva and Google Drive. That's the fun thing about Claude, is you can connect to pretty much any plugin that you can think of. They've got it. We're talking Canva, Google Drive. It can add and modify all the files. So now we're here in Claude's project section, and I have a project for various different things I'm doing. So the whole idea behind a project is that you can reference the same kind of files from a particular project. And so Claude has them in context over what you're specifically doing with that project. If you're context switching constantly, like us, between software and content, whatever your situation might be, probably the most exciting thing about this is it allows you to create clickable prototypes for this. So this is what Claude has generated. So we've got this existing habit screen, we've got the existing squad screen, and it's created this challenges feature. What I'm doing here is I'm not trying to vibe code the feature. I'm using Claude basically as a prototyping tool. Now, obviously you've heard me talk on the channel about various AI tools like Claude, Lovable, V0, and things like that in order to do prototypes. And I would, back in the day, draw boxes on pieces of paper and then turn them into Photoshop files. A few years later, an app called Sketch came out for the Mac. And it was sort of like you were able to draw boxes and quickly design prototypes of stuff using Sketch. And then Sketch sort of went behind, and then Figma came around, which basically allowed you to prototype in the browser and then share those prototypes with your team. That was amazing. But even though Figma is amazing, and we probably all still use Figma all the time, the problem with that is you still have to draw the boxes. Come to today, where we've got Claude. As you've seen over here, I've just described what I want, or I even think what I want, and it has mocked up a clickable prototype with what feature would actually be. So let's look at the final 100 days of 2025 and the strong consistency. Join challenge, and then I choose one of my habits. So let's say I want to run every day. Join challenge with run. Great, view my progress. This is incredible because this would have taken me hours and hours just to figure out if I was trying to do the stuff in Figma. And the end result of this, it's not like this feature is exactly going to be in the app, but immediately I get a feel for what might the feature look like if it was built into the app. And what I would generally do here is that I would go back and forth with Claude a little bit until the feature is sort of directionally at the level that I want it to be. And then I'd probably record a loom that I would send to the team and the product managers on it so they can go back and forth. And I say, hey guys, I've just been talking to Claude and I feel like I've got a reasonable mock-up of the challenges feature that we want to build into the app. Here is what I think it might look like, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then I would sort of talk through the feature and why I think it is good and why it'll look good. So this is the sort of process that goes through my head when I'm thinking about making content, designing with the team, building new products, etc. Now at this point, if I really wanted to, I could say to Claude, write me a script, but I don't like using AI tools for scripting because I prefer to do that stuff myself and in-house with my team. I find that if you outsource too much of the creativity of a process to AI, there's some soul that gets lost. And especially when it comes to things that I'm saying on camera, I don't want a large language model to be putting words in my mouth. And especially when it's a product or service that we're offering to millions of people, I don't want it to be anything short of what we create and what we intend to do with it. And so we basically got to ask the question, what's left for us to basically figure out, and what should we prioritize and what can we outsource to AI? And on the back end as well, we do some tracking, obviously around fully anonymized data. Obviously, it's more the critical mass of things than the average user needs to do to see actual value, but it's stuff we got to do nonetheless. So to wind things off, I think given our target audience and the sort of people that our businesses attract, you shouldn't find the technical side of it too hard if you're watching this, but the most difficult aspect is going to be the emotional side and actually staying motivated consistently to see results over the long term. Look, AI has definitely improved a lot of stuff, but it will never replace what we do. At the heart of everything is still our team, is still our soul, is still our vision, and that can never change. All it can do is help teach AI what to do and what not to do. And we've still got a long road ahead and a lot of work to do. I'm very interested to hear how you plan to incorporate offline components into your lifestyle when it comes to AI, with your businesses, with your companies, with your creator schedules. I'm very interested to hear. So please drop it in the comments. I can't wait to hear from you.